There is no way I could live with your mother. I've told you that before. I pleaded with my wife, Mary, desperately, but she just looked at me coldly and retorted, "If you have a problem with that, you can just leave. I'm not stopping you." "Fine, I'm leaving." I quickly packed all my stuff and left. I can't deal with her anymore, I said to myself. What fate awaited Mary after I left her? My name is Keith. I'm 41 years old. Mary and I had been married for 7 years. We both worked. I was raised by my maternal grandparents because my parents died in a car accident when I was little. I was feeling very lonely after losing my parents, so my grandfather, who loved traveling, started taking me to various places. Influenced by my grandfather, traveling became my hobby. I would write articles about my solo travels on my blog, earning a living as a freelance writer. I met Mary on one of my trips. She was drinking with a group of people at a bar one night, and I just happened to be there, drinking on my own. One of the guys she was with and I hit it off immediately, and he introduced me to Mary. She was the center of attention, telling interesting stories and making everyone laugh. Although I was new to the group, she made sure that I was having fun too. She was such a nice person that I couldn't help following her with my eyes. In my mind, Mary, who was working at a brokerage firm, looked perfect in every way, working very hard to meet and beat sales targets. We exchanged contact information, and soon after that, we started dating and eventually got married. I continued writing blog articles, working from home, while Mary worked as a company employee. One day, as I was leisurely drinking my morning coffee, Mary spoke to me. "Keith, I'm going to work. Can you do the laundry today? And can you also make dinner tonight, please?" "Sure." "Oh, could you stop at the supermarket on the way home and buy some canned tomatoes? I'm thinking to make meat pasta for dinner." When I asked her, Mary looked annoyed and said, "I work outside, you know. As you're working from home, shouldn't it be easier for you to find time to do grocery shopping? I have a lot on today, so I don't think I'll have time to go out at all." As soon as I said that, the living room door opened. "Keith, I couldn't help overhearing your conversation, but what on earth are you thinking? Asking Mary to run errands for you?" Suddenly appeared was Kim, my mother-in-law, who lived very close from our apartment. "Oh, Kim, why are you here?" I asked with a trembling voice. Then Mary casually said to me, "Oh, by the way, I gave Mom a key to this apartment." "What? Why did you do that without even asking me?" As I tried to question Mary, Kim glared at me and said, "Got a problem with that, and Keith, it's absolutely ridiculous that you are trying to force your wife to do the household chores, especially when she is working full-time. You should be doing everything since you're home all the time." "I agree, Mom. Keith is just being awful, isn't he?" Mary sneered, joining in with her mother. "Always staying home and not earning much. I don't know how you have the nerve to ask for help. What a shameless man." Facing such criticism, all I could do was to bite my bottom lip. "Okay, I'll go." "Good. You should just keep your mouth shut and do as you are told." I looked away from Kim, who was looking smug, and retreated to my study. The cause of my problems was this mother-in-law. Having been widowed, she lived close by. She took great pride in her only daughter, Mary, a graduate of a top university, and still doted on her. Ever since we got married, Kim was constantly making snide remarks about my working from home, but Mary never took my side when I was verbally attacked by her mother. There was something else about Mary that I realized after our marriage. Being invariably showered with praise by her mother, she was vain and ostentatious. Also, there seemed to be no mental boundaries in their toxic mother and daughter relationship. If I dared to complain about her mother, Mary would immediately get upset. I dreaded the thought of her mother visiting us frequently. Just the thought of it made me feel depressed. As expected, Kim began dropping by our apartment more often. She would criticize every housework I did, and, on weekends, She would sit around all day chatting and laughing with her daughter. This went on for a while, and I began to grow increasingly wary. I could never forget the day I visited Kim at her house. It was her birthday on that day. Although I was very reluctant, I felt obliged to go and see her. Mary was working on that day and would meet me at her mother's after work, so I headed there alone. "Happy birthday, Kim." I pulled out a beautifully wrapped box from the paper bag I brought with me. "Here is your present. It's a handmade bag I bought from a store I visited for one of my articles." Before I could finish, Kim clicked her tongue loudly. "What on earth is this? Did you just get this as a freebie or something?" "What? No." I quickly denied it, but she wouldn't listen to me. "I don't want this cheap bag, and I mean it. What were you thinking? I thought you'd like it." Kim began to berate me. "Enough. I never liked or approved of what you do in the first place. I don't even like you traveling around for work and troubling Mary. That's just not fair. I take pride in what I do," I retorted angrily, but she still looked down on me. "Pride in your small freelancing gigs? You're living off Mary. Why don't you return this useless thing and give me a gift card instead?" "Okay." I put the gift back in the paper bag, left her house, and headed to the department store. "Can I get her $200 gift card, please?" After buying the gift card, I returned to her house. "Hey, I'm back." As I opened the front door, Mary, who got there soon after I left for the department store, suddenly appeared. "Keith, it's Mom's birthday today. I ordered some fancy takeaway." The dining table was set with the dishes from a famous restaurant. "Oh, I was asked to cook for tonight, so I bought all the ingredients." I was standing there in complete shock when Kim interjected. "What are you talking about? These are obviously better than your cooking. Thanks for these, Mary." All I could do was to give them a disgusted look. Then, reluctantly, I joined them at the table, and we all began to eat. Mary and her mother chatted happily, but I felt left out. When we nearly finished the dinner, Mary suddenly broached a new topic. "Hey Keith, don't you think it's about time we moved?" "Move? You know, that new high-rise apartment nearby. Living somewhere with a great view would really boost my motivation to work harder." "Oh, that sounds wonderful. A new high-rise apartment." Seeing Kim's dreamy expression as she agreed with Mary, I panicked and said, "Isn't our current apartment good enough?" But Mary's expression turned visibly sour at my words. "What's wrong with you? We have enough money to buy that new apartment, so I don't see anything wrong with that." Kim glared at me and said intimidatingly, "As a husband, you should just listen to your wife. She is always right." I was only able to respond with a meek okay. Indeed, moving into a new place might not be a bad idea. I could probably have a bigger study and work more efficiently. And if I made sure not to give Kim a spare key to the new place, things might get better for Mary and myself. I convinced myself of that and agreed to move to the high-rise apartment. While signing all the paperwork, I asked Mary, "Mary, there's something I need you to promise. When we move, can you promise not to give your mother a spare key to the apartment?" "Why? What is your problem? Your mother is always meddling in our business, and my patience is wearing thin. If you are planning to give her the key, I'm not signing these." Mary then pondered for a moment, and then put her hand on my shoulder just to reassure me. "I see. If that's what you want, it's all good. I won't give her the key." "Thank you for understanding." Mary seemed really excited about moving into the high-rise apartment. Knowing that Kim wouldn't have the spare key, I felt relieved and continued the moving preparation. A few months later, we finally moved into the long-awaited high-rise apartment. It was in a fantastic location with great views and luxurious interiors. I thought I was finally able to enjoy my life with Mary, until the problem emerged again. "Hey, can I invite Mom over today?" "What, didn't you just invite her yesterday?" Mary started wanting to invite her mother over almost every day, which began to stress me out. As a result, the number of our arguments gradually increased. Can you please stop inviting your mother over every day? Why? You made me promise not to give her a spare key, so that's why I'm asking you if it's okay for her to come over. It's not about that. The next day, I had to leave for an overnight business trip for a meeting. As I was leaving home, Mary didn't say much. I got on the plane, headed to my destination, and stayed there for the night. It was hectic, but I managed to finish my work there. I bought some souvenirs for Mary at the airport and went back home. The moment I opened the front door of our place, I noticed something that wasn't there before. There was an ornamental vase on the display shelf. It was the same vase that used to be in the entrance of Kim's house. Feeling a premonition, I headed to the living room and found it filled with numerous cardboard boxes. What's this all about? As soon as I said that, Kim appeared from the kitchen, smirking. Finally, you're back. You told Mary not to give me a spare key, right? But you won't be able to shut me out of your life so easily. In a panic, I confronted her. Kim, what's going on here? What do you mean? I'm moving in here. Now, you won't have to worry about me getting a spare key anymore. But what about the house you were living in? That was a rental, so I've terminated the lease. I felt dizzy as she spoke triumphantly. Mary must have heard our conversation. She came out of the kitchen to see what was going on and gave me a puzzled look. Oh, honey, you're back. What is this all about? I didn't agree to any of this, Mary answered, scratching her head in annoyance. I don't see any problem with that. We have spare rooms anyway. There is no way I could live with your mother. I've told you that before. I pleaded with her desperately, but she just looked at me coldly and retorted, if you have a problem with that, you can just leave. I'm not stopping you. Are you serious? I'm dead serious. If you don't like it, we'll just have to get a divorce. Yeah, I will live here with Mary, so just find yourself somewhere else to live. Both Mary and her mother looked at me as if it was an obvious thing to do. I couldn't take this any longer. I couldn't believe they were trying to kick me out of the apartment. If this was what a family was like, I didn't want one. Grinding my teeth in frustration, I told them in an extremely calm tone. Fine, I'm leaving. Good. Pack your things and leave. I don't know how you're going to survive on your own though. All I could hear while packing my stuff was Kim's loud laughter. Mary avoided making an eye contact with me. Mary, is this really what you want? Then Mary looked at me, smirking, and said, you'll probably be coming back within a few days anyway. You really need to calm down a bit. I left our high-rise apartment without even saying goodbye to them. All right, I'll make an appointment to see a divorce lawyer. I didn't want to see both Mary and her mother ever again. A month later, I was relaxing in my new rental apartment when the intercom started ringing insistently. Hello. Hey, it's me. Open this door right now. The intercom monitor showed my red-faced mother-in-law, and I could barely see Mary, standing behind her. I thought about ignoring them, but decided to let them into my apartment so as not to disturb the neighbors. What can I do for you? When I asked Kim, a troubled look on my face, she snapped. We have received a letter from your lawyer, so we are here to clarify. What does it mean by you have to leave the high-rise apartment? That means exactly what it said. That place has already been sold, so you need to leave. Kim's eyes widened in shock. Sold? But that apartment belonged to Mary, didn't it? You can't just sell something that's not even yours. What are you talking about? That high-rise apartment was in my name in the first place, and I paid for it. What? Kim looked at me, then at Mary, who stood there, pale-faced and shaking. Is that true? I sighed deeply and looked straight at Mary. Mary, didn't you tell her? Mary remained silent, avoiding eye contact with me. I turned to my still confused Kim. Once you called me a gold digger, but I don't think you really know who I am and what I do. I am the founder of a certain travel blog, and occasionally appear in magazines and on TV. What? Magazines? TV? Kim's mouth fell open as she stared at me. I continued in an even tone. That was why I had some savings and was able to afford that high-rise apartment. By the way, your last birthday present, which you didn't want, cost me over $1,000. $1,000. Of course, I had to return it to the shop and got my money back. Also, the fancy takeaway that Mary ordered for your birthday was paid with my credit card by Mary without my consent. Kim, looking like she was about to faint from shock, suddenly turned to Mary. Mary, why don't you just buy back the apartment from him? You're a top salesperson of the company, earning over $100,000 a year, right? You must have lots of savings. Mary didn't say anything. Trying to suppress my laughter, I said to Kim, as far as I know, Mary doesn't have any savings. What? Both Kim and Mary were standing there absolute motionless. I calmly continued. She's been making continuous losses in stocks, lost almost all her savings. Isn't that right, Mary? No way. Mary, say something. As Kim grabbed Mary's arm and shook it, Mary dropped to her knees and looked up at her mother. I thought moving to the high-rise apartment would help boost my motivation and drive, but, as I glared at Mary, demanding an answer, she continued in a stuttering, faint voice. Well, I did try, Mom. I barely have any money left to rent a small apartment to live with you, let alone buy the high-rise apartment off him. What? I crossed my arms and said to Mary, I always knew that you had no skills for stock trading. I thought I had to support you as a husband and all. On hearing that, Mary looked up at me and asked for my forgiveness. Honey, I'm truly sorry. Can you please come back? Mary, stop it. As her mother tried to pick her up, Mary yelled back at her. But Mom, I have to do this, otherwise we can't afford to live the way we do now. I softly replied to Mary, who kept apologizing to me. Look at me. She became silent, her eyes filled with hope. I continued in a gentle voice. You never helped me with housework, just because I was working from home and you weren't. That is, well, I'm really sorry. Ignoring her apology, I went on. You told me to leave, and the reason why you could say such a thing to me was because you looked down on me, right? And when I actually did leave you, you freaked out. Am I right? Our marriage is over. Once the separation period is over, I'll file for divorce. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. But, honey, as I spoke firmly, Mary tried to cling to me, but I silently shook off her hand. Kim, who had been watching the whole scene, cried out in distress. Wait a minute. What about our luxurious life at the high-rise apartment? Obviously you won't be able to afford it. As I spoke in an exasperated tone, she screamed hysterically. Then, what are we supposed to do now? How about living happily with your beloved daughter? I said this as Kim stood there, gaping. I helped Mary to her feet and led them both out of my apartment. For a while, I could hear Kim yelling and screaming outside, but it quieted down when the building manager arrived. Half a year later, I was overseas again. I was traveling around and enjoying the feeling of freedom when I received a message. It was from Mary, whom I hadn't spoken to for the last 6 months. After kicked out of the high-rise apartment, Mary and her mother moved into a crumbling old house. Mary had been working day and night to repay the debt she accumulated from stock trading, and her mother, who had never worked before, started a part-time job at a factory, but they were barely making ends meet. In her message, Mary thanked me for helping her understand how hard it was to earn money. I felt truly compassionate for her, and all of my resentment disappeared. A few days ago, when I returned home for the first time in a while, I went out for a few drinks with Mary. Back then, I was overwhelmed at work and maybe took out my frustrations on you, who was doing what you loved as a job. I'm truly sorry. That day, I felt that she really meant it when she apologized to me. That's okay. No hard feelings. I'm actually very happy now that nothing is stopping me from doing what I love." When I said that, Mary smiled sadly. "Are you going overseas again?" "Yeah, I'm leaving next week." At our amicable parting, Mary extended her hand to me. "It is very hard for me at the moment, but I'll try to live my life to the fullest, just like you're doing, Keith. You'll be all right." Then we exchanged a firm handshake. Walking home late at night, I thought to myself that, valuing my work, I wanted to have a happier life and to think with a more positive mindset.